What's up, people? I'm sitting here today again, but in a little bit of a different environment. I'm at the office. That is mostly because I have some laundry on my laundry rack at home that is right behind my PC. Didn't want you guys to see that, but also because we have some new lights and we wanted to try them out. So yeah, that's why really. I have my little laptop here because I took some notes on the elephant in the room that I think all of you would like to hear some more information on. So yeah, strap in. I hope that what I'm gonna say, what I'm gonna explain is gonna clear up a few things about why this change happened and what's going on. What are Sinners doing? Are they crazy, right? And then I hope by the end of it we seem maybe a little bit less crazy, but I guess it's us, so maybe we don't. I also needed this, honestly, because it's been an interesting couple of days since we announced the roster change. I'm sure it seemed pretty sudden to most of you, because obviously you don't really see what's happening within the team. Because our players are playing from home and you don't get to see them that much behind the cameras, behind the scenes. Like this process, this idea has been really in the works since last year, let's say, and I'll explain that to you. I think the biggest factor, the biggest immediate factor that you guys have in mind, and that's very fresh in your mind, are simply the recent results that we've had. There's some beeping going on right now. I don't know what that is. Anyway, after the short beeping intermission, let me continue. Yeah, the most immediate reason, I think, as you guys have surely noticed yourselves, have been the recent results, right? Especially in April. The beginning of April was an absolute banger. Started off with a 9-game win streak, and then it sort of went steeply downhill pretty quickly. And that to us was a bit of a sign that there might be something different going on in the team that we need to get to the bottom of. And so our work throughout April has really been on trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening, and how can we change that situation, right? And at the beginning of the year, we did make a deal, or I suppose you could call it a deal, with the players, where we said, all right, over the next few months, at first we figured we would make it 3 months, the first quarter, right, which is what, with major qualifiers and all this, we'd see how the boys would be playing together. And then after those 3 months, we wanted to say, okay, it's been going well, or it's not been going so well. And the decision or the idea was always that if results weren't there where we wanted them to be, or where we needed them to be, we would make changes. And why we didn't do that within the first 3 months was simply because there wasn't that much being played. There weren't that many tournaments where our team could show itself, right? There were some smaller tournaments going on, but the really big one was the major qualifier. But that was so early of the team getting together that you can't really judge that well how a team is going to work a couple of months in. And then in April, there were just a ton of tournaments that we started playing. So we said, all right, boys, let's do April as well. We've had plenty of time to start working together as a team, and really took those 3 months to practice a lot. And going into April, we said, we'll see how April goes. And if it doesn't go up to what we imagine or up to how we would like to, then we're going to make changes. And yeah, I think the breaking point, I'm sure you guys recall as well, was really the match against Bleed, which is where our win streak ended, and sort of this massive slump started. And I think one of the big reasons, we talked with the team, we had pretty frequent calls throughout the first quarter of the year, and then in April as well, to figure out, okay, touch base with the guys, see what the issues are and what we could do better. And what we pretty quickly realized within April was that there was some pretty significant internal turmoil going on within the team, where the communication, or the internal communication within the team, was really not what it should be, right? I think what I mean by that is that if you, as a player, right, if a game doesn't go how you imagine, then there's a feedback loop. You need to give your teammates feedback, and your teammates need to accept that feedback, and giving feedback is really an acquired art, I would say, right? Feedback isn't, oh yeah, you're playing like shit, or you're an asshole, or whatever. It's really saying, okay, you did this wrong, you could do this better, let's try this, etc., etc., and then the team really putting that into motion. However, that communication wasn't really happening on that level. I think the boys got into a spiral where that internal communication turned pretty negative relatively quickly, and we figured that it's something that is a fix that needs to be done on a much more significant level. It's a long-term process, I think, of really learning feedback, especially with new players that come aboard. We've seen Ait, right, who's a completely new addition. And yeah, so we were really discussing what sort of the main issues were, and what we could do with those, and we were trying to fix things throughout April and trying to really stay ahead of the game. But quite honestly, we simply weren't able to. We weren't able to fix the underlying issues, and the team spirit really went downhill very quickly, and you could see that in the games as well, right? You guys watch our games, and you can see always if there's something not quite right in the team and in the communication. There's some plays being made where you're like, what the fuck was that? And did they not have the communication? And oftentimes that was the case. The communication wasn't there, or maybe someone, or maybe there was some tilting going on in the game, and that really brings down the mood in the team. And that really is at the core of the issue, where this internal communication sort of turned at times into toxicity. And so for us, it was something where we said, okay, what we want to do now is really ignite that flame again in our players, right? Really, because we also saw that because of these issues, these internal communication issues and others, sort of their flame and their passion for the game seemed to be dying down a bit, and that's something that is obviously a pretty bad issue to have. And so for us to ignite that flame again, we said, all right, we need to wipe the slate clean and try and bring in new talent, try and bring in younger players that maybe haven't gotten the chance yet to show themselves, and which is also, of course, why we brought in Mikey, for whom I have certainly quite a few words in a bit as well. But and it's something where we also, going forward, want to keep that idea going. It's sort of part of a, let's say, broader strategy, you could say. We want to bring in new players, new talent that is hungry and just really wants to win and wants to prove themselves, and players that really want to show what's in them. And I think Mikey is the perfect embodiment on that. He's been in our academy for quite a while, and I think I'm sure that quite a few of you have seen what he can do on the server in the academy team. And so we said, all right, we have the academy team for a reason, and the reason is to bring these young players into the main team eventually. And because we've, over the past couple of years, sort of started bringing back players that have been with us, right? And that's Neo and also Oscar, and sort of the core seemed to never really change. And that's something that now we said, okay, we need to really bring in that big change. And with Mikey, that's the first step in our agenda, let's say. And yeah, we'll see how he does, right? I think what I really love about him is that he's a super positive guy. He has great communication on the server and off the server. He's funny, and you can really tell that he has that burning, right? That he has the teeth, he has the grit. He wants to show himself. He's a hard worker. And he certainly has the skill as well. So I'm really happy that we've finally been able to give him the chance in the core team. It is at the expense of Neo, unfortunately. But there were lots of questions going around as well, which to a certain extent I understand. But also, that's also why I'm here, right? Where people are like, oh yeah, but Neo had fantastic stats, and look at Ait, his stats aren't great, but honestly, stats aren't always everything. It's also, with everything that I've told you up until now, it's a lot about the internal team chemistry, which we believe is at least 50% in the team, right? If not more than that. I think for those of you that have seen us at LANs, have also seen that, you know, maybe our boys were always a lot more quiet than the other teams. There wasn't a lot of cheering going on. There wasn't that passion for the game, right? And that's something where we said we don't like that because it's not really a good sign, right? And so we believe that with Mikey coming in as a stronger and louder voice and as a sort of more outgoing guy and more passionate guy, that's something that we can bring in. And it's also, of course, connected, you know, with bringing in Neo. We figured, let's bring in the top player in each position and take that approach. Really try a serious run for the major and just bring in the absolute best that our region has to offer, right? The Czech Republic and Slovakia. And with that, of course, also come much bigger expenses than you would have with new players coming in, right? And Neo having experience in tier 1 teams was also a lot more expensive on the other hand. And we said, you know, if we're going to spend the money on a team that we want to have a shot at the major with, then we also need to see the results logically. But with the results not being around for us, we said, okay, let's wipe it clean. Let's go with younger players that want to prove themselves, because we've done it before, right? 4.5 years ago when we started with the initial roster, everyone was so hungry to prove themselves and finally be able to show themselves on the international stage. And you know, Neo being the legend that he is, he's already he's gone to the major and he's been in tier 1 Counter-Strike, and of course he's an extremely hard worker and really has the passion for the game. But we said, okay, we'll start here. And we'll start with someone new and just bring in the fresh blood, even if it is at the expense of, you know, one of the greatest players that our country has really produced. I know it's a tough pill to swallow, and I know it's a decision that maybe might strike you guys as odd, but maybe getting to the next point, which is sort of a broader new strategy, right? And I've touched upon a couple of points of that where I said, you know, bringing in new players and really trying to bring up that new talent again, rather than simply trying to aim straight for the major. I think what we've realized as a team as well is that just by force and pushing for the major at all cost and at any expense simply isn't the way to go. It's something where maybe along the way we as a team have lost maybe a bit of the vision of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve. And the major is and always will be the main goal, even going forward. And if we make it there, fantastic, great. That is a dream. That's what we strive for. But for us now, it is much more important that we start the grind really from the bottom again, start grinding through a couple of tier 3, tier 2 tournaments, higher tier 2 tournaments, and show ourselves there and really build the base to hopefully then make it back into tier 1 tournaments and really show what we can do and show that we as a team are able to build up these younger players, this younger talent, these players that want to prove themselves, the players that have the fire and the passion for the game. Yeah, maybe to touch a little on Ait as well, because I mentioned him. I understand that you guys, that a lot of what you see is really just the stats, right? And it's something, oh, the player isn't playing well right now, and his stats aren't looking so great. But that's not everything a player is. I think for Ait, he has always been an extremely talented player and someone that really puts in the work and someone that understands the game very well. And someone that for us, for our internal team chemistry, is very good. And again, the team chemistry is what we're looking for right now. That for us is the #1 concern. And we've kept Ait, and we want him to prove himself to us and to you as well, to really show that he is the right replacement in that position for this roster. And he's also very young still, again, younger players, right? Of course, as I said, the big dream is still out there, the major is still out there, but I think for us, and hopefully also for you guys, it is understandable that we want to start really from the ground up and go through these tier 2 tournaments and hopefully win a couple of them again, because that's where we started and that's where we're restarting, let's say, where we're putting our boots on the ground again and saying, okay, let's put in the grind and really and really push it into gear from then on. And hopefully it works as we imagine, right? Over the next couple of weeks, the player break is somewhat around the corner. Over the next couple of weeks, I think there's going to be some other interesting things that you're going to see on the server and off the server. We've decided that we're going to do a little bit of experimenting with our current roster and maybe with a couple new players, some of which you will have seen on the server. It's going to be a bit of a clown fiesta, a bit of turmoil, because for some of the tournaments that we've currently already started, we can't really make big roster changes. So, the return of Coach Peak is certainly in the cards. I think we also have a good idea for an interim replacement coach whom you might see at a LAN, at the Tipsport LAN that is coming up pretty soon. I think that'll be fun for you for you guys and for our interim coach as well, if it all works out the way that we imagine. But yeah, within the roster, you're going to see some more experimenting, some more potential changes. It's stuff that we want to try, see how maybe some other players work with the current team as well, and then hopefully after the player break, go forward with a roster where we can say, all right, this is the roster that really has the fire, that has the potential to do some fucking damage internationally, right? Yeah. One more or a couple more changes as well. You guys may know Bayo, who's our coach of the academy and also our analyst. He's going to be working a lot more closely with Tomcase and with the players in sort of one-on-ones and really getting to the sort of going into a structure where we have a main coach and we have our analyst / second coach in Bayo to work the guys through some of the mistakes they're making and some better plays that they could be making. Really devising some strategies that they can go with. So Bayo is also going to be a lot more involved in there. And of course, I suppose the question on the table is also what's going to happen with the academy. The academy is for us still a long-term project that we want to keep going with, because we've had a couple of players that have now made it into some of the tier 1 local scene. If you look at Finno, who's already claimed the title of the Czech championship, right? And I'm super proud of him, and I'm glad that he's found a great place in Sampi. And now Mikey in our main roster, and to hopefully see him shine there and do well and prove himself to you guys. And the rest of the academy boys are staying in the academy, but it will obviously take a bit of a rebuild of the academy roster itself as well. But we need to take things step by step now. We need to focus on the main team first and get things in order there. And while that is happening, we're going to be scouting for new young players that want to join the academy and really try to make a dent there and work their way up from the academy system, from the tier 2 Czech system into the higher levels. And but that'll also take a moment. So hopefully that'll also be done by the end of the player break, which will give us some time, some breathing room, some practice room for everyone, some much needed breathing and practice room as well, I believe. And yeah, so the academy project, do not worry, it is continuing. We still have our young players. We have them in mind. We want to keep raising them and giving them what they need to become better players. And yeah, I think lastly, what is important for me, and I think I say this in every video, but is that we just need patience. I think we can't expect immediate results with a new roster. It'll take some time for the boys to be able to really work together as a unit, for Mikey for Mikey to get used to a new calling style, new teammates, and to really find his footing, find his confidence in the main team. Because it is for him, it is a bit of a gut-wrenching kind of situation where he gets put in the main roster and has to prove himself, right? There's a lot of pressure on him, but once that subsides a little bit, I'm sure he'll be able to show us what's in him. And yeah, I think patience is really the key. And yeah, and after the player break, I hope that we can really step into it again, step into gear. There's a couple of tournaments we're going to be playing beforehand. We'll see what's happening during the player break. If maybe there's a tournament or two that we can play, but otherwise, it's going to be a journey once again. It's going to be a path that we're all going on, and I just hope that you guys find it in yourselves to support us as you always have along the way, and watch our guys and support them, And yes, I understand it's a tough pill to swallow that we've had to put Neo on the bench for now. But we do believe that it is the right step forward with everything that has been going on. And we also trust that in a couple months we'll be back to where we want to be, back to where we imagine ourselves to be, and to win something again, right? And not just locally, but also internationally, qualify for bigger tournaments, win local tournaments. That's really what we want to do. That's why we're here. We need some more. We need some new trophies, some more trophies. We're kind of running short on the ones that we have, and yeah. I think that really sums it up from my end. That's most of what I wanted to say. I'm sure you guys will have a few questions, and I suppose you guys understand that I can't give away everything that's been going on into every detail, because there is some very sensitive stuff and some stuff that I can't really reveal. But I think if you read between the lines of the video, you will understand what the message I'm trying to convey, and why these changes happen. That it's not all just always stats and, oh yeah, this player is just always fragging, because there's a lot more to a team than just having the stats, as I'm sure you guys know as well. But yeah, thank you for listening, for looking at me for the past, I don't know, 15 minutes. How long has it been? And I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope you keep cheering for us. And cheers to you guys. I need this now. Bye.